Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. I have a great article here for you guys from Mike over at Light Reading. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you guys can check it out. So I think now is the time to speculate. I think we have every right, every bit of information where it's time for me to speculate. So T-Mobile's 2.5 appetite shows no signs of slowing. So I want to kind of backtrack a little. Not really backtrack, but currently today, what's the most amount of radios and panels that they have deployed in the midband? It's clearly 2.5. I think the last update we got, they have 307 million pops deployed or some number like that. So they have that deployed at grand scale. So they've deployed billions of dollars of CapEx since the merger closed with Sprint, deploying this panel, the massive MIMO 2.5 panel. They have deployed it in all of Nokia land, and they've deployed the massive MIMO panel in all of Ericsson land. But now in the secondary market, they have continued to purchase additional 2.5 license. They have traded DoD spectrum for 2.5. They have gone to smaller institutions and educational boards, and they have acquired additional 2.5 in what looks like to be the amount of $6.6 billion worth of 2.5 licenses all over the country since the Sprint merger closed. So the speculation that I wanted to talk about in this video, what are they going to do with C-band? We can speculate now. If they're going to be able to get more 2.5 and spend additional billions, right, which is something that they would rather have, right? If they could get another 40 megahertz, as an example, of 2.5 in a given market, they would rather get that because the equipment is already deployed. So there is no additional deployment cost on C-band if they can just get 40 more megahertz of 2.5. Right? Because they're going to have to spend probably a couple of $1 billion deploying C-band in the top 50 markets where they purchased it. If they decide to go that route, which there's no evidence today that they have any plans to deploy C-band with any urgency. It's talked about as additional spectrum that they can deploy. It's talked about, we have it on a few sites for testing. That's what Mike Sievert recently referenced. So they have no actual plan today to deploy that spectrum with any urgency. There are guidelines around that spectrum set by the FCC that a certain amount of it has to be deployed by a certain year. Yes. So it does have that. I think 2026 or 2027, like 45% of it has to be deployed on sites. So T-Mobile is clearly today nowhere near that goal. So is there a possibility that if T-Mobile can comfortably get the other 2.5 assets together, right, rather that be making it more contiguous, rather that be actually getting more 2.5, whatever, if they can do that, are they going to sell C-band? We can speculate on that, and I think they do. If they can get more 2.5, if they can get markets to 194 and they can use all of it, I think they'd be willing to sell C-band. They have to at least be thinking about it or talking about it at meetings. They have to be. They paid, what was it? I think 10.7 billion, I think, for the C-band holdings that they have. Imagine how much T-Mobile could get for that in the secondary market. It's 40 megahertz in most cases. They could probably sell it to Verizon or AT&T in the secondary market for like $15-20 billion. Easily. And Verizon and AT&T would probably pay that. So T-Mobile kind of has the upper hand when it comes to that asset. They could deploy it, which is a win, and they can sell it, which would be a win. Either way it goes, it's a win-win situation for T-Mobile. Especially if they can quietly get additional 2.5 licenses in the secondary market. So I want to talk a little bit about this. I think they got some additional licenses recently in the North Carolina market. It says here that T-Mobile respectfully submits that the proposed transaction will advance the public interest by enhancing T-Mobile's ability to expand its array of commercial wireless mobile services throughout North Carolina. The operator told the FCC, the U.S. government agency that must approve all such spectrum transactions. The term of T-Mobile's deals with the University of North Carolina were not disclosed, and T-Mobile has generally declined to comment on its 2.5 spectrum purchases. It says, but Airwave Research estimates that T-Mobile's deal with the University of North Carolina is worth around $220 million. T-Mobile has inked dozens of such agreements every year since 2020. They've been doing this very, very quietly. They haven't been very loud on this publicly, but they're trying to fix the 2.5 holdings that they own. They're trying to fix it. And like I said, if they can get that fixed to a wide enough scale where they can gain more 2.5, is the C-band holdings still worth it for T-Mobile? I would say yes, right? If you'd ask me, right, never mind the business, never mind the funding, right? If you'd ask me, I'm a spectrum guy. So I still want T-Mobile to deploy that 40 megahertz of C-band. Even if they get all of 2.5 contiguous everywhere, I still would want them to have that C-band asset because of the outsized growth and because of FWA. They continue selling it. So they're going to need more spectrum if they continue selling the way that they have been with FWA. The problem is, right, T-Mobile is going to look at it and say, hey, we want to be financially disciplined. And if we spend an additional, I don't know, $6 billion, right? They've spent an additional $6 billion since 2020 on acquiring additional 2.5. The investor might question that. They might say, well, where do you get the return on investment? Do you still need the C-band, right? Because you're going to spend billions deploying that. And T-Mobile might cave and just say, hey, we don't need C-band anymore. We're going to sell the license entirely to so-and-so. And we have enough 2.5 where we can effectively compete quicker, more efficiently, and maybe produce the same performance as they would have if they deployed that 40 megahertz of C-band. And, if they would have never made 2.5 more contiguous or bought more of it, how would they have performed with the additional 40 megahertz of C-band, right? We'll never know, right? If they sell it, whatever the case may be. But if they get more 2.5, it's also more efficient from a device perspective. Now you don't need as many carriers to perform even better, right? If you deploy N77 at 40 megahertz, you're going to need an additional carrier that's going to be taken up. If you just make the 2.5 more contiguous and buy more of it, you could potentially still use the same two aggregation channels that you've been using, but you just have more 2.5 on it. So I think that's the route that T-Mobile's going. Again, I'm speculating. None of that is official. But from what we can see, T-Mobile is buying more 2.5, making that channel wider, and they're deploying C-band very little. They don't talk about it much at the analyst days. They don't talk about it much at the earnings calls. They don't talk about it much at these individual conferences because they simply have no real need to deploy it. They don't. So even if they keep it as a congestion protection, as they called it early on, they're still going to have to deploy it to some type of scale because there are build requirements around that spectrum. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like I said, we can speculate. Let's speculate in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you're new. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Live. See y'all in the next one. Peace.